Him and us and your kids and everyone else got to watch what might be game of the year so far, at least is from an offensive standpoint, an insane game. I mean, Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, I don't know how many times you and I either looked back at each other or shot eyes over at the throws and plays that were being made, but that was absolutely ridiculous.
There was a couple of the throws by Stafford to Puka. The catches were unbelievable. The throws were unbelievable. I kept saying, like, that's a 10 out of 10 throw. And that is a 10 out of 10 catch. I mean, it was unbelievable. The execution, Stafford's numbers on 3rd and 4th down, out of this world. And then, it's a big game when Josh starts running. That's when he really wants it. And he took off 3 or 4 times. Obviously made history with the 3 touchdown passes, 3 rushing touchdowns. But, a couple things I want to hit on. Just one thing from the game, and then we can talk about concerns for the Bills, concerns for the Rams going forward, things that we still like about them. That end of the game scenario has been being talked about a lot, where Josh, they end up doing a quarterback sneak. He doesn't get in. They have to use a timeout, which essentially kills them being able to take 3 timeouts after giving it back to LA and having a chance at winning that game. What do you think in that situation? Is there something different you do? Is the quarterback sneak still the right call there, or are you getting out and throwing it 3 times if you can't get in? What are you doing there, Whit?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the philosophy that they say Josh, he's the best weapon from that spot on the field to score a touchdown. I don't think they expect that many teams are going to stop him in that scenario, but having said that, I think you either I think you got to try to throw it the first at least attempt just to see if you can get in without that situation happening. At least I think you waste a couple downs trying to throw it, because you're not going to burn a ton of time, because the real couple seconds don't matter compared to the timeouts. The timeouts are what matter. You could get the ball back with 30 seconds. If you have all 3 timeouts, that's a huge thing. So I think the timeouts are really the biggest problem. So it's do you throw it? And then if you were going to do that scenario, to me, maybe you try, we don't get it on the ball immediately, do it one more time, and then take the timeout. So maybe we get in without burning the timeout, because the real scenario is once you get the ball back to the Rams, can you burn 3 timeouts and you get the ball back with 40 seconds or 30 seconds or enough time and no timeouts to get that field goal off? So that timeout is more important to me than even a couple downs of us attempting to get in the end zone. That was really the factor that bothered you. On the flip side, they handled it great. You look at it, the scenario they have to go kick a field goal, go up 6 if they want with like a 50-yarder, and instead 4th and 5, they go for it, get it, and that really becomes like a huge difference in the game, right?
Yeah.
So, and you and I talked about it as it went down. I mean, Greg Olsen famously a couple of weeks ago described this scenario, in the Cardinals game, I believe it was. And It's like, you kick the field goal, you're still only up 6, and the other team now has the ball, all their timeouts, and they're in 4-down world now. So they're going to get a touchdown no matter what. So you've really almost put yourself in a worse scenario by just going up 6 rather than going for it. And so I think in this one, the Rams get that. They had the 3rd and 6. They get a penalty. And then Sean McDermott decides, hey, let's take the holding people. And people can scrutinize that. But the reality is they get the yardage back. Either way, it was going to be a 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6. Whether the Bills took the penalty or not, it really didn't impact anything. But McVay going for it on 4th down was a huge decision and really handling that scenario the right way. And it led to them being in the opportunity to win the football game.
Yeah, and what do you think now about them? Because it just, I mean, you've been talking about all year when they get healthy. Now they're healthy. Their offensive line is healthy. We're looking at the NFC West, and I mean, it's still shocking to me that 49ers in the situation they're in. But right now it's Seattle looking down at everybody. But I'm looking at that game week 18 with the Rams in Seattle. It may all come down to that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Rams schedule now. I mean, you go to San Fran on Thursday night. Obviously, we have that game this week, but what a huge moment for them. It's an opportunity to go in, and if you can get this win, to me, this is the big one that really tees up week 18, because if you can get this one and you look at really Seattle's schedule going forward, I mean, they've got some tough matchups with Green Bay. They've got to have some division games as well, and then it's like they
got Minnesota too. They got Green Bay and Minnesota. Yeah.
So I mean, you got 2 tough games, and then you're going to have to come to LA to really probably have to seal the division. And so the tough scenario for them is the Rams beat them the first time. So they're in that scenario where, all right, we might lose a game, the Rams might lose a game, but no matter what, if they beat us week 18, they'll have swept us in the division, and that's the first tiebreaker. So the Rams have a window, a clear window, probably as anybody, to win this division, because Seattle's going to have to get through them probably to end this season. So we'll see. I think it's nice to see their O-line. I think the first 2 weeks, week 13 and 14, that they've had the group they actually plan to start a season with. I mean, I think that's pretty absurd to think about. So they're healthy, and if they can stay healthy, look, this offense, man, when McVay's in his bag, you've seen some of these games. When we had him on Thursday Night Football against Minnesota, you can tell, like, when he's just in that groove and he's got a feel and an answer for every team before they even get to the next play. It's like they call something, it's like, oh crap, they called it at the wrong time. And it happened yesterday. We saw it time after time, even there at the end of the game scenario. You want to come with zero? I've already called empty.
Stafford, baby. Stafford's going to get you.
He knows all the answers, and we're going to hit you. And that's what he does. And so I think when you talk about Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, LaFleur, all these different, Kevin O'Connell, different play callers across the league that people love, it's not just the system. It's not, oh man, they're great at designing plays. There's this feel you have for a game. And I don't know that anybody, Sean McVay is one of those guys, toe-to-toe with anybody in the NFL. When he's in his feel and he's got a feel for what you're going to do and what your answers are, he's as good as anybody that's in the game right now at the feel of a game as a play caller and having an answer for everything you might have, and even being a step ahead of you at times. And you can just feel it when they're that way. So they're dangerous. There's no doubt about it. So we know where the Rams are really at, Fitz, but when you look over at the Bills side, anything concerning for you from this game?
Well, I think there's a couple things, and Bills fans in general. One of the things over the years that they've complained about is these close games and the execution at the end of the game by Coach McDermott. And so this is just another one that you can point to say, look, we've seen some errors here that reared their ugly head in a game we really needed, and we're behind the whole game, so we really needed to do everything precise and perfect. And we talked about that situation on the goal line and wasting the timeout and essentially putting yourself in a situation where you either get the onside kick or the game's over. And that's what happened. Yep. The game was over. So I think that's still concern number one that's always going to be there. The second thing, just the defense in general. When you run into teams that can really run the ball, and this was a masterclass by the Rams in execution, especially on third down, as we had said. But, there was even at the beginning of the San Francisco game, there were some rumblings and some concerns. Christian McCaffrey, before he got hurt, was running up and down the field on that defense. You look at how they really struggled with Baltimore earlier in the year. That was the one game they got blown out. And then all of a sudden, they're undefeated at home, but they're 4-3 on the road this year now. And so there's definitely some concerns there. I think the other thing, and I'm not too concerned with this one, but Matt Milano's back, but he's really struggled the last few games. He struggled to make an impact. I think it's nice to get him back right now, though, because they do have some breathing room. They've obviously been great all year long, and he's going to get a chance to get back into the flow because it's not easy. I think people think, plug and play, you just get back out there and you go. But Milano plays one of those positions. You've got to be able to see it. You've got to be able to bring the physicality. And he's been struggling a little bit, but he's getting his feet under him. I'm not too concerned for him and the way he's going to play as this season goes on and as they get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Fitz. Like, the thing I probably didn't like the most for the Bills in this game is I think the thing I've been really, complimentary about this year for them, and I felt good about them, and why I've continued to say I think they're in that picture of this year could be different, is that this year's felt like, a team where Josh Allen's kind of been able to, I'm not saying not play well, but just step back a little bit. Let's run the football well. Let's bring in a 6 offensive lineman, have a chance to, have some physicality in our offense. And then we'll kind of do some of the other stuff. We have answers kind of for different ways we can win games. We've found a bunch of different ways to win games, even defensively. And then this game kind of went back to me almost like, we went back 2 years ago, and it's like, all right, Josh, just put your cape on, and like, we have no answers. The only answer we have is like, let's just ride you the whole time and see if you can do something crazy. And that's not, to me, how the Buffalo Bills are going to be a Super Bowl team. They got to show like, hey, we can play complementary football on both sides of the ball. Like, we're not always going to lean on Josh. We can come out, and really, once this game got to 17-7, it became, okay, just Josh, it's on you. Like, forget the running game, forget running the ball. it's your show. And that's what concerned me, because I don't want him to go back to that scenario.
Yeah, and he's good enough that he can do it, right? And he showed it.
Yep.
He showed it. But this week's going to be interesting. Again, a road game at Detroit against a team that can run the football. So these are kind of the things that have caught up with the Bills this season. So it's going to be really interesting in a week's time to see if they can get some of this fixed, see what type of things they're going to do to try to slow down that Detroit attack. But we just saw Detroit and Green Bay. I mean, this looks like Detroit's defense is depleted. They're going to go for it on every fourth down. Like, this looks like it's going to be another shootout this weekend.